I want to start today by looking at my phone. I'm serious. Just looking at this black rectangle sitting here on the table.
Right.
It's so weird when you actually stop and think about what this thing, what it demands from us.
It's like a little pet that's always hungry.
It is. It's a pet that eats information.
Hmm.
And we feed it constantly.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about this on the way here. We live in this bizarre cultural moment, right? We've sort of collectively decided that if something didn't happen on social media, it's like that tree falling in the forest.
Did it even happen?
Did it really happen? I mean, did I
Okay.
actually get that promotion if I didn't post that, that humble brag on LinkedIn?
With the perfect paragraph about your journey.
Exactly. Did my relationship actually have a nice anniversary if there's no photo montage to prove it to everyone?
We've completely mixed up existence with public documentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the pressure. The word we hear all the time is authenticity.
Oh, for at least a decade now. Be authentic.
Be authentic. But what we've done is we've interpreted that to mean total disclosure. If you aren't bleeding your trauma out online or broadcasting your half-formed ideas, you're accused of hiding something.
You're being fake. You're curating too much.
Right. And that's the narrative. But what we're going to do today is take that whole idea, put it under a microscope, and realize that it's not just, annoying. It's actually a massive strategic mistake.
A strategic error. Yeah, and that's where the sources we're looking at today get so fascinating. This isn't just about complaining about social media.
No, we're not just, two old guys yelling at clouds. We've got a pile of research, biographies, legal documents that all point to the same thing. This habit of oversharing is basically a way to destroy your own leverage.
The term the sources use, and I love this, is risk transfer.
Risk transfer. Okay, let's unpack that a little before we jump into the stories. Because when I hear that, I just think of, car insurance.
It's surprisingly similar. I mean, think about it this way. If you have a plan, a secret, a deal you're working on, and you keep it to yourself, who owns the risk that it might fail?
Well, I do. It's all on me.
Exactly. You own the risk, sure, but you also own the timeline. You own the narrative. You can change your mind. You can scrap the whole thing, and guess what? Nobody knows.
The only cost is my own private disappointment.
Exactly. But the second you broadcast that unfinished idea, you tweet, "I'm finally going to write that novel."
Or you tell everyone at work, I'm going for that VP job.
The moment you do that, you have transferred the risk.
Yeah.
You've handed it over to the audience.
I see. Because now it's not just a promise to myself. I've promised them.
Yes. And here is the absolute crucial part that our sources hammer home. You are handing that leverage, that risk, to people whose incentives do not align with yours.
Right. The audience isn't my mom. They're not all rooting for me.
No. The audience is bored, or they're jealous, or they're your direct competitor for that VP job. When you hand an unfinished reality to the crowd, they do three things almost instantly. One, they interpret it, and usually in the least charitable way possible.
Yep.
Two, they react to it. Your rival hears you're going for the promotion, so they start working to undermine you.
And three.
They use it. It becomes leverage. It becomes a data point. It can even become evidence in a subpoena.
Wow. Okay, so information really is currency.
It's currency, and when you print too much, you devalue it. And today, we're going to look at three very different people who either understood this economy of silence or, in one case, learned about it the hard way.
So what's the lineup?
We have the ultimate cautionary tale of risk transfer. A tech CEO who typed 10 words and it cost him $40 million.
That is a very, very expensive tweet.
Then I'm going to flip it completely. We're looking at a fashion mogul who became, at one point, the richest man in the world by being a ghost.
And the third one, this is what I'm still trying to figure out. Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Because when I think Dolly, I think noise. I think rhinestones, wigs, Dollywood, the opposite of silence.
And yet, she might just be the master of what we're calling strategic silence. But to frame this whole deep dive, before we get into the details, I want to use a quote. It was the epigraph for one of our main sources. It's from Sun Tzu.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt.
Dark and impenetrable as night. Wow. I mean, that runs so counter to everything we're told today, doesn't it?
Completely.
We're told build in public. Let your plans be, bright and transparent like a glass house.
Which is fantastic if you're on a reality TV show. But it is terrible for warfare. And make no mistake, whether it's business or just protecting your own peace, you're in a landscape where other people want things from you.
So let's look at what happens when you turn on all the lights way too early.
Let's go to the cockpit. The date is Tuesday, August 7th, 2018.
A date that will live in securities fraud infamy.
You got it. We're talking about the Elon Musk case study.
And we have to set the scene here, because it's so easy to forget now that Tesla is this absolute monster of a company. Back in 2018, things were shaky.
Shaky is a very polite word for it. It was a pressure cooker. I mean, we looked at the financial reports from that quarter. The company was burning cash at an incredible rate.
This was the production hell period for the Model 3, right?
That's it exactly. And because of that vulnerability, the short sellers were just circling like sharks.
And just for anyone who isn't a Wall Street person, short sellers are, they're betting the stock price will go down. They make money if Tesla fails.
Precisely. They borrow shares, sell them high, hoping to buy them back later when they're cheaper. And Musk, he didn't see them as investors. He saw them as enemies, actively trying to destroy his company with negative stories.
So psychologically, you have to picture this. He's under siege. He's famously sleeping on the factory floor. He's exhausted. And he has this army of people publicly betting on his failure.
The source material we used had this fantastic analogy. It said to imagine the CEO's phone as the cockpit of a plane that's flying through a massive storm.
Okay, I can picture that.
All the alarms are blaring. You've got the pull up warning screaming in your ear. The fuel gauge is dropping. The red lights are flashing everywhere.
And the passengers, the shareholders, are panicking in the back.
Yes. And in that moment, the pilot, I mean, you have a very human impulse. You want to grab that microphone and just yell, "Everything is fine. Calm down."
You want to make the noise stop.
You want to silence the alarms by force. So Musk, in this analogy, he grabs his version of the microphone, he opens Twitter, and at 12:48 p.m. Eastern Time, he types those fateful words, "Am considering taking Tesla private at $420. Funding secured."
Funding secured. Just 2 words.
2 words that set off a chain reaction that completely changed his life and the company's future.
So I want to get into the weeds here for a second, because I think a lot of people might not get why this was so illegal. I mean, CEOs tweet hopeful stuff all the time, right? Or we're going to have a great quarter, or big things are coming.
That is the critical distinction. In securities law, there's a huge, bright line between what's called a forward-looking statement, which is an opinion about the future, and a statement of material fact.
And a material fact is something concrete, something that affects the value of the company right now.
Exactly. If a CEO says, "I am taking the company private," that's not an opinion, that's a transactional statement. It implies an action is underway. It means the stock won't be publicly traded anymore.
And that would force all those short sellers to cover their positions or get wiped out.
Instantly. It moves the market in a second.
And the price he chose,
Yeah.
$420.
Yeah. It's almost unbelievable, but the SEC complaint actually brings this up. He later admitted he rounded the price up to $420 as a reference to marijuana culture. He thought his girlfriend at the time would find it funny.
So you've got a multi-billion-dollar corporate maneuver that's also wrapped up in a weed joke.
It perfectly captures the impulsivity of the moment, but here's the real problem. The market, Wall Street, they read funding secured, and they assumed, well, that the funding was actually secured.
That a deal was done, ink on paper.
Yes, that the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, which he'd been talking to, had signed a term sheet, that it was a real bankable deal.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't even close. They had had one meeting, a conversation where they expressed interest, but there was no signed document. The board hadn't voted. The price wasn't finalized.
So he announced a maybe as if it were a definitely.
And that is the absolute definition of what our sources call the narration trap. He was narrating his hope. He wanted the emotional relief of the deal being done, so he announced it as if it were.
And the fallout was immediate.
Oh, immediate chaos. The stock surged, which halted trading. Then it crashed when reports came out that the deal wasn't real. The SEC launched an investigation almost instantly and then sued him for securities fraud.
And the settlement from that lawsuit was pretty brutal, as I recall.
Brutal. He had to step down as the chairman of the board. Tesla had to pay a $20 million fine. And Musk had to pay a $20 million fine out of his own pocket.
$40 million for a tweet. Was that $4 million a word?
Something like that, yeah. But honestly, the money was the smallest part of the punishment.
What was worse?
The loss of control. He was forced to have a Twitter sitter, a company lawyer, who had to pre-approve any of his tweets that contained material information about Tesla. The very freedom he was trying to exercise got him put in a digital cage.
And this brings us right back to that idea of risk transfer. He didn't solve his problem with the short sellers by tweeting.
No, he made it a million times worse. He handed them a loaded gun.
How so?
They turned around and sued him for market manipulation. He took this private negotiation he was having with the Saudis, a situation where he actually had some leverage, and by making it public, he blew the whole thing up.
The Saudis backed out.
Of course they did. They didn't want to be involved in a public regulatory circus. The silence, the discretion was a necessary condition for the deal to even happen. The moment the silence broke, the deal broke.
Wow. So that's the lesson for the rest of us, even if we're not, trying to take a car company private.
It absolutely is. When you're negotiating for a raise or buying a house or trying to land a new client, silence is an asset. The moment you broadcast, "This is a done deal," or "I absolutely have to have this," you lose your power.
You lose the ability to walk away.
Exactly. Which is where one of my favorite takeaways from the sources comes in. They call it the sign or silent standard.
Signed or silent. It's a binary rule.
It's that simple. Is the contract signed? Is the money in the bank? Is the deal completely 100% executed? If the answer is no, then you are silent. Period.
Because if the truth of what you're saying depends on something that hasn't happened yet,
then you're just gambling. You're gambling with your reputation and your leverage.
it really fights against that modern impulse, though. That need to narrate our lives in real time. We want that dopamine hit of the announcement.
We want the applause before we've even done the work. I'm starting a podcast. I'm training for a marathon.
And what the research shows is that can actually be counterproductive.
Totally. Psychologists call it social reality. You get congratulated for saying you'll do the thing, so your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction, as if you've already done it, and your motivation to actually do the hard part goes down.
So Musk is our cautionary tale. This is what happens when you treat the whole world like it's your private group chat.
The absolute peak of that, yes.
Okay, so now I want to swing the pendulum as far as we can in the other direction. We're going from a man who is maybe the most online person on Earth to a man who, for decades, you couldn't even find a picture of.
We're leaving Silicon Valley, and we are going to A Coruña, Spain, home of Amancio Ortega,
The founder of Zara and its parent company, Inditex.
one of the wealthiest human beings in modern history. I mean, depending on the day in the stock market. He's been richer than Bill Gates, richer than Jeff Bezos. And yet, if he walked in here right now, would you have any idea who he was?
Honestly, no. I have this vague image of an oval guy in a simple blue blazer, but that is it.
And that is completely by design. Through the 80s and 90s, as he was building this globe-spanning retail empire, he was a total ghost. Our sources say there were literally no official photos of him available to the press. Zero.
How is that even possible for a billionaire? I mean, did he just never leave his house?
No, he just didn't engage with the machine of fame. He didn't go to the fashion weeks in Paris. He didn't accept the big awards. He didn't give interviews. He just stayed in his hometown, went to the same coffee shop every day, and worked in the design rooms in the factories. He made himself unnewsworthy.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. We live in the age of the founder brand. You look at Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Musk. Their fame is a massive asset. It's free marketing. It drives the stock price. Wasn't Ortega just leaving money on the table by being invisible?
That is the conventional wisdom, for sure, that fame is free leverage. But Ortega's philosophy, and I think this is just brilliant, was that attention isn't an asset. Attention is a tax.
Attention is a tax. So more about that.
Think about the overhead, the sheer cognitive load of being a public figure like Elon Musk. Every single word you say is scrutinized. Every move is tracked by journalists. You have to constantly manage your persona, defend your reputation.
That takes time and a lot of energy.
A massive amount of time and energy. Ortega's insight was that if he became a celebrity, he would stop being a merchant. He wanted 100% of his focus to be on the insanely complex logistics of fast fashion.
Which is Zara's whole model, right? The speed.
Yeah. It's everything. They can take a design from a sketch to a store rack in like 2 or 3 weeks. You cannot run a supply chain that tight if you're spending half your day worrying about a profile piece in Vanity Fair.
So by refusing to pay the attention tax, he kept all his focus on the actual work.
And it worked. He built this global empire that is arguably more stable than a company like Tesla because it's not tied to the whims or the tweets of one man.
It's decoupled. If Ortega said something controversial at his coffee shop, Zara's stock doesn't crash.
Precisely. He didn't create that key man risk around his personality, but There was a turning point. In 1999, Inditex decided to go public.
Right.
And Wall Street. Well, Wall Street doesn't like ghosts.
No, they want to see the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
They demand transparency.
They do. So in the 1999 annual report, for the very first time, the company published an official photograph of Amancio Ortega.
The seal was broken.
It was. But even then, he controlled it. He didn't suddenly start doing interviews on CNBC. He gave him the photo to satisfy the legal requirement, and then he went right back to being invisible. He managed what one of our sources called the handle.
The handle. Let's circle that in my notes. What is this concept of personal data being a handle?
It's a really powerful, if slightly dark, strategic concept. Think of any tool, like a knife or a suitcase. To pick it up, to control it, you need a handle, right?
Something to grab onto.
Personal information, your habits, your routines, your family problems, your political rants, your financial worries, all of that stuff you post online, those are handles.
They're things that other people can grab onto to manipulate you.
Yes. If a competitor finds out you're going through a messy divorce because you've been vaguely tweeting about it, that is a handle. They now know you're distracted. They know you might be stressed about money.
Or if a negotiator knows you're desperate to close a deal by Friday because you posted a picture of your plane tickets for a vacation starting on Saturday.
That's a handle. They can squeeze you on the price because they know your deadline. Ortega's invisibility meant he was smooth, like a sphere. There were no edges, nothing to grab.
So when you competed against Zara, you were up against this faceless, perfectly optimized machine, not some guy you could troll on Twitter.
Exactly. And you see this play out all the time now. Public figures get dragged for things they tweeted 10 years ago. Those old tweets are handles from their past that are suddenly being used to pull them down.
We're all creating this searchable storyline of our own vulnerabilities.
And the internet's memory is perfect. Ortega understood that before most of us were even online. He knew the only guaranteed way to not get dragged is to give them nothing to grab in the first place.
It's a powerful idea, but it's also, it's pretty extreme. Most of us can't be billionaire recluses in northern Spain.
Right.
We have jobs, we have families, we have to exist in the world.
Hmm.
Which brings us to our third case study, and the one that feels maybe a bit more relatable.
The Queen of Nashville.
Dolly Parton. Okay, you have to really sell me on this one. Because Dolly is the definition of maximum noise. The hair, the voice, the sequins. She is the polar opposite of a ghost.
Visually, yes. In terms of her performance persona, she is incredibly loud. But we're not talking about visual silence. We're talking about informational silence, strategic silence about the things that actually matter most.
You're talking about her marriage to Carl Dean.
Her husband of, what is it now, over 50 years? 55 years, I think?
And nobody knows who this guy is. I've seen the pictures. There are maybe 3 grainy black and white photos of him in existence.
So let's go all the way back to 1964. Dolly is 18 years old. She's just arrived in Nashville on a bus with, a suitcase full of dreams. She's at the Wishy Washy Laundromat.
Please tell me that's the real name of the laundromat.
That is the 100% real name. And she meets this guy, Carl Dean. Now, you have to understand the dynamic. Dolly has this burning, all-consuming ambition to be a global superstar.
She wants the world.
And Carl runs an asphalt paving business. He's quiet. He likes to stay home. He wants absolutely zero part of the spotlight.
That is a recipe for disaster in most celebrity marriages. The classic "a star is born" problem. One person's fame skyrockets, and the other person resents it.
And it often does end in disaster, but usually because the private partner gets dragged unwillingly into the public world. But Dolly, from the very beginning, made a brilliant strategic decision.
What was it?
They got married in 1966 in a tiny ceremony in Ringgold, Georgia. Just her mom and the preacher's wife were there, and right then, she drew a hard line in the sand, a boundary.
And the rule was?
She's quoted as saying, "I belong to the public. Carl belongs to me."
I belong to the public. Carl belongs to me.
That's powerful.
She knew that if she tried to make Carl Dean a character in the Dolly Parton show, it would destroy him and it would destroy their marriage. He didn't sign up for that. So instead, she created what one of our sources called the boring defense.
The boring defense. I love that. How does it work?
Okay, so you know the Streisand effect, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Barbara Streisand tried to sue a photographer to get a picture of her house taken down.
Okay.
And the lawsuit just drew 1,000,000 times more attention to the photo.
Exactly. Trying to aggressively hide something just makes people more curious. It creates a mystery. If Dolly had been super secretive, if she refused to even acknowledge she was married, or if she had lawyers sending cease and desist letters, The tabloids would have hunted him down. They would have had helicopters flying over their house.
Because it becomes a challenge, a story to uncover.
Right. But Dolly did the opposite. She didn't hide him. She talked about him freely, but she made him sound boring.
Wow.
Whenever an interviewer would ask, she'd just say something like, "Oh, Carl, he's at home. He doesn't like all this hubbub. He's probably out paving a driveway somewhere." She normalized his absence. She made his intense privacy seem mundane and uninteresting, not like some deep, dark secret.
She hid him in plain sight by making him seem completely unnewsworthy.
Exactly. And at the same time, she used her giant public persona, the wigs, the makeup, the self-deprecating jokes, as a kind of armor or a distraction.
So the big hair was a strategic distraction.
In a way, yes. She gave the public so much visual candy, so much performance, so much personality that they didn't even notice they weren't getting the person. The core of her life, her primary relationship, was kept completely private, completely off stage.
And because of that, it survived for over half a century.
It's the perfect example of the idea of privacy as a shelter.
A shelter.
Yeah, we tend to think of privacy as hiding, like it's something shameful. But for Dolly, it wasn't about hiding her marriage. It was about creating a shelter where it could just be a normal marriage, where she could go home and not be Dolly Parton, the icon. She could just be Dolly.
And if she'd let the cameras in, if she dragged them onto red carpets, that sanctuary would have been violated.
It would have been destroyed. And it's so interesting because the modern advice is all about vulnerability. We're told to bring our whole selves to work, to share our struggles, to build connection.
But Dolly's story suggests that keeping a core part of yourself completely separate is actually much healthier.
I think there's a huge difference between being authentic and being public. You can be and should be deeply authentic and vulnerable with your inner circle, your spouse, your family, your closest friends.
But when you perform that vulnerability for an audience of millions, or even just for your 500 coworkers on a company-wide email.
Is it still vulnerability? Or is it just another form of content creation?
Oof, content creation. That hits a little too close to home. We are turning our actual lives into content.
And when your life becomes content, you start making decisions based on what will get the most likes. You stop living for yourself. And that is the ultimate and most dangerous risk transfer. You're transferring ownership of your own life story to the whims of the crowd.
Okay, wow. This has been a journey. We've gone from the wreckage of Musk's tweet to the silent fortress of Amancio Ortega to the rhinestone-covered sanctuary of Dolly Parton's marriage.
Wild ride.
But now we have to land the plane. We need to get tactical.
Let's do it. The toolkit.
Because most of our listeners aren't, hiding a billionaire husband or fending off short sellers. They're just trying to navigate nosy relatives, tricky office politics, and the pressure to post everything. So let's open up the Strategic Silence Toolkit.
Tactic number 1. This one comes straight from the Elon Musk playbook of what not to do. It's the signed or silent standard.
This feels like the golden rule for your career.
It is. If you're interviewing for a new job, if you're trying to buy a house, if you're launching a side hustle, until that contract is signed, the keys are in your hand, the money is in your account, you say nothing.
But that's so hard in practice. Okay, let's role play. I'm at a family barbecue. My Uncle Bob, who knows I hate my job, comes over and says, "Hey, hear anything back from that company you interviewed with?" If I say, I can't talk about it, I just sound like a self-important jerk.
Right. You can't go full CIA agent at the cookout. The technique here is the non-answer pivot.
Okay, teach me.
It's simple. You acknowledge, you deflect, and you redirect. So you say, things are still moving along, but honestly, I'm just trying to switch off and enjoy the weekend. Hey, how's that boat renovation of yours going?
You give a vague, truthful, but not revealing answer, and then you immediately turn the conversation back to them and their favorite topic.
People love to talk about themselves. Use it to your advantage. You're not lying. You're just not disclosing. You're protecting the deal, and you're protecting yourself from having to give a failure update later if it doesn't work out.
Oh, that's the worst. Having to walk back the good news you announced too early.
It's a walk of shame you can completely avoid.
Okay. Tactic number 2. The work forward answer. This is for the office, right?
This is specifically for that bring your whole self to work pressure. The Monday morning meeting where the manager goes around the room asking what everyone did over the weekend.
You feel like you have to have a cool story or complain about your kids to be relatable.
But remember the concept of handles. You don't want to give your colleagues or your boss unnecessary handles. So you create what we call a public persona range.
What's that?
You pre-decide on 3 to 5 topics about yourself that are true, but totally harmless and non-controversial. Maybe you like baking sourdough bread, you're a fan of the New York Knicks, and you're into gardening.
That's it.
That's your range. So when someone asks, how was your weekend? You answer within those topics. Oh, it was great. I finally got my tomato plants in the ground. It's friendly, it's authentic because it's true, but it gives them absolutely zero information about your financial stress, your relationship problems, or your emotional state.
It satisfies the social ritual without breaching your own privacy. You become the garden guy.
Exactly. It's a safe, professional avatar.
I love that. Okay, tactic number 3. Stop being searchable. This one feels a little paranoid, but I'm listening.
Yeah.
It's just good digital hygiene in 2024. We are creatures of habit. We go to the same coffee shop at 8 a.m., the same gym class at 6 p.m., and then we tag those exact locations in our Instagram stories in real time.
Getting my morning brew at the Grind on Main Street.
You are literally broadcasting your exact coordinates and patterns to the entire world. And it's not just about the scary risk of stalkers, which is real. It's about data aggregation. It's about competitors, or even just nosy acquaintances building a predictable pattern of your life.
So what's the fix? Just stop posting.
An even easier fix. Just post with a delay. It's the simplest hack in the world. Enjoy your coffee, take the photo, but post it 3 hours later from your office. Post the gym selfie after you get home.
It's time-shifted sharing.
Yes. You break the real-time link between your location and your post. You keep the content, but you remove the tracking data. And while you're at it, go back and scrub your old posts, delete anything that gives away too much, remove the handles from your past.
It's a good weekend project.
It-
Timeline purge. Okay, tactic number 4, the disclosure gate.
This is your emergency brake for when emotions are running high. We've all been there. You get an infuriating email from a client. You see something online that makes you furious, and you just want to type. You want to fire off that response.
Your thumb is just hovering over the send button.
You need a gatekeeper. If it's something really high stakes, like a resignation letter or a public statement, you need a literal second person, a trusted mentor, a lawyer, your spouse, someone to say, are you sure about this?
And if it's late at night and you don't have someone?
Then you become your own gatekeeper with the 24-hour rule. Write the angry draft. Get it all out, put it in your drafts folder, and then go to sleep.
And read it in the morning.
But when you read it with a very specific mindset. Read it as if you are the opposing lawyer in a lawsuit against yourself 1 year from now.
Oh, that's good. How could this be used to destroy me?
Exactly. Does this make me look unhinged? Does this admit any fault? Almost always, in the cold light of day, you'll realize that a much shorter, politer email, or even just silence, is the real power move.
Silence projects confidence. Frantic noise projects insecurity.
When you're explaining, you're losing.
Okay, and finally, tactic number 5, the inner circle.
This might be the most important one for your actual well-being. This whole deep dive is not about becoming a paranoid hermit. We're not saying don't trust anyone. We're saying don't trust everyone.
We've confused our 2,000 friends on Facebook with actual friends.
So you need to do a simple exercise. Physically write down on a piece of paper the names of the people, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5, who get the unedited director's cut version of you. Who are the people who get to know about the health scare or the financial trouble?
And everyone else.
Everyone else gets the edited volume, they get the polished, public-facing version, and that is not being thick. That is being a responsible steward of your own life and your own energy.
A steward of your own life.
Yeah.
I really like that framing. It shifts the whole perspective.
It does. We've been taught to think that privacy is a form of hoarding, that we're being selfish if we don't share every part of ourselves, but it's not. Privacy is about value retention.
It's about keeping the good stuff, the important stuff, for the people who actually earn the right to see it.
And keeping your leverage for the things you want to achieve.
So as we wrap this up, we've covered so much ground. From the chaos in the Tesla cockpit, to the quiet streets of a Coruña, to the asphalt driveways of Nashville. What is the one core idea you want the listener to walk away with today?
I want to leave you with a different way to think about this. A shift in geometry, I guess.
I'm ready. Go for it.
We almost always visualize privacy as a wall.
Right.
We talk about building walls to keep people out, and that feels defensive. It feels lonely and isolating.
Right. It has a negative connotation. Stay away from me.
But I want you to flip that image entirely. Don't think about privacy as a wall to keep people out. Think about it as closing the windows to keep the warmth in.
Wow.
Think about a house in the middle of winter. You don't shut the windows because you hate the snow or the trees outside. You shut the windows to keep the heat from the fireplace inside where it belongs.
That is a beautiful metaphor.
Your focus, your deep relationships, your peace of mind, your leverage, that's the heat. That's the warmth of your life. And strategic silence isn't about hiding from the world. It's just about closing the windows so you don't let all your warmth escape.
Closing the windows to keep the heat in. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time.
It really changes everything once you see it that way.
Well, I think on that note, I'm going to practice some strategic silence myself. I am not going to tweet about this deep dive until it is fully edited, uploaded, and ready to go.
Podcast episode secured.
Exactly. Thank you so much for this. This was a fantastic breakdown.
It was a pleasure.
And to you, the learner, thank you for listening. Remember, be dark and impenetrable as night, so that when you move, you can fall like a thunderbolt. We'll see you next time.
Stay strategic.